I'd like to welcome you to WCPT AM's Out Chicago. Think of us as Sunday brunch with your gay best friends. Now please welcome your host, Scott Duff.
And a happy Sunday fun day to everybody out there. Scott Duff here along with Ella Miller.
Good morning, Scott
Good
Duff.
morning. This has been a very weird week.
Yeah, it's been a very rough,
been a
tough
lot,
week.
man.
Yeah.
So much going on right now. Just everything. It's very overwhelming. How are y'all holding up out there? We would love to hear from you and check in on our friends here. Welcome down, Chicago.
Welcome.
It's it's kooky. I'm just sitting here.
The world continues to be kooky.
The world continues to be kooky, and of course, we are sending. I don't want to say thoughts and prayers, but we are definitely keeping everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we are. I have thoughts and prayers for them because it's just unthinkable what's going on over there.
What's going on in Los Angeles right now. So we're thinking about everybody there. We do have a good show for you today. In the Vaz, Michael Cheyenne plays the role of his own larger-than-life mother, Roya, welcoming audiences into her home to celebrate the Iranian New Year. This heartfelt and hilarious production is written and performed by Cheyenne, running January 21st through February 29th at the Upstairs Studio at Chicago Shakespeare. We're going to chat with Michael Cheyenne later in the show. And Porchlight Music Theater presents Fun Home, the Tony Award-winning musical based on Alison Bechdel's critically acclaimed graphic novel. Director Stephen Shellhart is going to be joining us in the second hour. And like I said, of course, we would love to hear from you. So give us a call at 773-763-9278. That number again is 773-763-9278. Phone lines should be open. And, you can also tune in to listen live at AM 820 on TuneIn on the Heartland Signal website, or you can watch the live stream video on Facebook or YouTube, except not today's because we've got a little oopsie doodles going on right there. There's some technical difficulties.
It's not you, it's us.
Debiting.
If you're wondering why you can't see us.
It's not you, it's me.
It's not you, it's me.
It's not you, it's me. But you can also tell Alexa to play WCPT from TuneIn. All that good stuff. Yeah, and in case also, as long as we're getting some business out of the way, in case you haven't heard the news, Out Chicago has its very own podcast. Yeah.
Where all podcasts are found.
Two, actually. Out Chicago full episodes and Out Chicago featured interviews. Just search Out Chicago wherever you get your podcasts, or get the podcast links on our show page by visiting heartlandsignal.com/out-Chicago. On that page, you'll also find our recent interviews with Randy Rainbow. Somebody just sent me a little Randy Rainbow video.
Oh, a new one?
Like, he's so funny. He's a national treasure. I'm like, yep, he's been on our show twice. There we are. So you can do that. You can find interviews with Judy Gold, Chicago alderperson Lamont Robinson, Michelle Williams of Death Becomes Her, and so much more. Again, go to heartlandsignal.com/out-Chicago. How are you doing, Ella Miller?
I'm a lot of emotion, a lot of different feelings right now. A lot of us have friends in California and Los Angeles area, especially if you know people in the industry that live out there, or just people in general that live out there. It is just heart-wrenching what we've been watching all week long. And then we saw, of course, juxtaposition the Jimmy Carter funeral with all of the living presidents. And
God bless Obama.
Oh my God! I want to get. Why hasn't a lip reader been brought on by one of the networks?
I have
because I kind of lip read a little, but
idea.
Because I wanted to hear. Of course, referring to the fact that Obama had to sit next to. They sit in order of their presidency, and he sat next to who, and immediately, because that's his power thing, he just engaged him, started yap. He's got no reverence for anything going on around him, of course.
Well, he sure wasn't talking to Mother Pence.
Oh, she gave him the cold. And I was just, he came down the row and he shook Al Gore's hand, and next to Al Gore was Mike Pence, and then of course Mother Pence next to him, and he shook Pence's hand. First time they've actually, been in the same space for since
since he tried to get him killed.
He tried to get him hung in 2021.
Yeah.
And she just, good for her. I was like, good for her.
Atta girl.
Good for her.
Atta girl, mother.
You know what? I'm so sick of kowtowing to this person. I don't care if he's been elected. I think he's, he tried to hang my husband,
Yeah.
He tried to kill him.
Oh, that.
So that. Then he sits next to Obama, and he immediately starts, and Barack, you could just see his, he was like talking to him, taking the high road, laugh. They were laughing a little bit. And then at one point, you could tell Barack was looking at his program and not looking at him anymore, but he kept trying to engage him. That's his power. That's when people, it's like when you do a handshake and you won't let go of the hand like he does. But, one thing I noticed watching this, the funeral, I watched as much as I could. I was in the dentist chair for a good part of it. But there's some people do a eulogy like Jimmy Carter's grandson. And there's some funny things, that's part of, you see that every time. There's some funny things, some things to laugh about, because life isn't just all about sadness when someone's gone. You want to remember some fun things. He's got a scowl on his face. The man does not laugh. He only laughs when he snickers and says mean things to other people.
Yeah.
It shows that he is soulless. It says a lot about somebody who cannot laugh.
Well, that was the big thing with the campaign. With Kamala Harris and Tim Walz's campaign, they were the whole emphasis about bringing joy back. And this man is incapable of joy unless it is like the ruining of another person or another group of people.
That's the only thing.
That is the only thing that
he finds funny. Devin,
remember what was the big thing? Laughing Kamala Harris, cackling Kamala. They made fun of her for laughing.
Yep,
Ellen's onto something.
Yeah, no, that's been the whole thing. It's like
everybody else had a smile and then, of course, he was falling asleep during the thing.
Of course.
I listened to a news conference on the way in with the L.A., the government, the people in charge, police chief, mayor, blah, blah, blah. And they asked him a couple of times. They asked him, have you reached out to the incoming administration? We have reached out. And then another question was, have they reached out to you? Mm-hmm. Zip, zero, nada.
Yep.
Now, I am so worried for not. Do you think things are bad enough with California, just what they're dealing with? But this incoming, we see what he is like in a crisis. We see how
it's not even a crisis. Like, let's just take the horror. This is biblical. It is awful. It is what is happening in LA is horrible. It is horrifying. It is biblical. It is like, literally scorched earth. And take out how he handles a crisis. Take out how he's going to respond to people who he thinks he perceives as the enemy.
Yeah.
These people did not vote for me. Why should I help them?
Well, but there's one thing he has to get. 33% of these people in California did vote for him.
Oh, I know.
A third of the population in California voted for him. And that area is diverse. That the Palisades area is diverse.
Politically diverse.
The Pit is politically diverse. So he does have constituents there.
Oh, I know.
But he throws the baby out with the bathwater. He's just the most despicable human. I'm now calling him the felon-elect. And I'm just ashamed of 49% of this country that they felt that this is the man they want to represent us to the world. And now I guarantee you these 1/3 of the people, those that live in that area where the fires are that voted for him, they've got to be feeling very let down. I mean, maybe he'll show up, but the fact that he has not reached out, there's nothing to stop him from going already. He's going to be president in 8 days.
He's been reaching out to Russia.
Yeah, of course.
He's been reaching out to Canada.
So I didn't mean to get off right on that, but that's top of mind because we've not, as you say, this is a biblical proportion. It is. You're looking at communities. Can you imagine wherever neighborhood you live in Chicago, if it was leveled, everything you've come to know, your dry cleaners, your doctors, your grocery store, your cafe, your coffee shop, your school, your church, gone, nada, nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know where these people are going to go. I mean, it's so many displaced folks. So, I think that giving to the Red Cross is a good idea. If you think there's a GoFundMe that speaks to you, that's legit, we're going to all have to pitch in. But it's just, and then they deny, this is an administration that, of course, is denying climate change. So I'm trying to, I got through the holidays because I didn't have to think about him or it. But you can't turn away this week to what's going on in the world. And the inauguration is a week from tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
And I will probably watch it. I will probably watch it. Kathy cannot bring herself to watching it.
I will not.
Because I just need to know. It's like a car accident. I can't take my eyes off it. But anyway, it's important to do things that make you feel good. You've got to do self-care more than ever and continue to do it. I did a little self-care. I went and saw this play, Shuck, that's at the CIBC Theater.
Oh, it's been getting amazing reviews.
It is corny jokes, but they are funny. I was laughing out loud every few seconds.
No pun intended right there with the corny jokes.
You're correct. No pun intended.
There we are.
But it is you know what? Go see this because it's only here till the 19th, and you forget about things for a while. You forget about life for a couple of hours.
What is it about? That's what I'm confused about.
What it's about is this small town is hit with something that's messing with their corn.
Okay.
And there's a couple they feature that are engaged. They're supposed to get married, but this corn issue has gotten in the way. So the woman goes to the big city of Tampa. She goes to Tampa, Florida it's all kind of a joke. But
of course.
To look for somebody that can help them fix the corn.
Uh-huh.
And she finds this charlatan dude who's kind of a carpetbagger guy. And then he pretends that he's got he acts like
so
he's
it's kind of like the
her.
Music Man.
Yeah,
coming through and be like, I'm going to teach your kids how to play a thing, but I'm going to fix your corn.
Yes, definitely. I guess where they got the idea. And he comes to the town and things
shenanigans ensue.
There is narrator 1 and narrator 2, a man and a woman. Diversity abounds. He seems very, very gay, and she's African American, and they're the narrators, and it is just a delightful thing. It really
All
is.
right, yeah, that is what I hear.
It is really.
Everyone said it's just so much fun.
It got nominated for a bunch of Tonys, and I believe won one of them. That's what got us to go. It's like, it looks kind of goofy, but it's obviously.
I love Goofy.
I think you.
I love Goofy.
Out of it. It is. It's a feel good. So. I still call it the Schubert. I'm going to call it the Schubert forever.
Please call it the Schubert, yeah.
That theater is so intimate. It's just.
I love that place.
We saw Betty Boop there. I saw Book of Mormon premiered there in Chicago. And it's just, I love the theater. So go see it if you got time. If you got, if you want to spend a few of your discretionary funds on something that will take your mind off life for a while.
There you go.
How about you, my friend? How was your week?
I was feeling kind of poorly this week, so this week was my self-care week of R&R. I literally slept for 10 hours every night. It was
good for you.
Yeah, I just needed.
I
needed to do that. But got caught up on a lot of films, but watched them all. We went and we finally ventured out. Because I was just not feeling well. I think it was just between the holidays and work and guests and everything. I was pooped. And again, not doing 100%. But I finally got out of the house. We went to go see Nosferatu. Because
where did you see it? Is it still at the Music Box? They
no.
were lined up at the Music Box.
It's really good.
It's scary, right?
I don't know. It's not really scary.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Well,
because I just watched you don't like horror though, right?
Not generally, but I liked what was the movie with the African American and the white guy?
Get Out.
Get Out.
Yeah.
Is it like that?
No.
I love that.
No. Yeah, Get Out was amazing. This is also amazing. It's very different. It's very it's. You got your Bram Stoker going on. You got your Dracula story, but it's Count Orlok, and it's beautifully
people are loving it.
shot.
So I'm sure I'm going to see it because
it's really gorgeously shot, and I want to say that it's Johnny Depp's kid who's in it.
Like the daughter or
the daughter? Yeah. She's remarkable. The performances are really great. It gets a little gory, of course, because you're dealing with vampires. But it's it was a fun little.
Lots of good movies out there.
Yes,
I'm glad you went and saw it.
Me too. We needed an antidote because it was very cold and very snowy, kind of like what we're experiencing right now. So we were like, "What's a good summer movie?" So we watched Stand By Me.
Aww.
And I don't know if you've seen Stand By Me in a while.
No.
You need to go and watch Stand By Me.
What year did that come out?
Oh gosh, I think like 86, maybe.
My dad loved that movie.
That movie it's phenomenal, and just see like all of these young people who went on, to have these incredible careers. And of course we lost River Phoenix going there, some way along the way we lost Corey Feldman, but to I think different things.
Yeah, different things.
But it's so wonderful. I guess I've been kind of on this nostalgic kick.
Oh, that's comfort. Nostalgia can be comfort.
Yeah. There was something about just like, I don't know, maybe you can attest to this, or if you do remember this, but like, being a kid and just disappearing for like all day.
Oh, yeah.
Or in this case, the kids just like, and your parents were fine with it. They were like, okay, great. We'll see you. Like,
when we ring the bell, come home.
Ring the bell, come home. Yeah. Like that. Or like when the streetlights come on, come home. That whole idea of a group of kids just creating an adventure for themselves. There was something
I could see that would be a really good balm right now.
Yeah, it was something about that, and just also, but there was a sadness involved too, because I'm like, I don't think like do young. I mean, it's different because we live in a city right now, and I did not grow up in the city. I grew up in a suburb that was like very suburban, and near on wild. Did
you have streetlights though? Because I was in a suburb that didn't have streetlights.
Really?
Oh no, we didn't have any.
Yeah,
street
no,
lights.
we had streetlights.
No
Yeah,
sidewalks or streetlights.
We had sidewalks and streetlights, and that was
in
the
an
thing.
unincorporated city, a suburb rather.
We had to come in. We didn't get incorporated until later, much later, but we still had all the stuff and everything. But for real, it literally was we in when the lights come on.
Oh, we were
and
out
get
running
out,
around.
Just out running around doing your thing. And I wonder, like, it made me a little sad. Like, do kids still do that?
No, oh God, no.
Do parents let their kids just kind of just go?
Well, not where we live.
Right. I mean, again, we live in a city because it's very strange.
I lived in the far-flung, maybe in Huntley, Illinois, or somewhere. My dad had a school bell, an antique that he had mounted on. I have it now in my backyard. It's like from I don't know how. It's really old.
Yeah.
And it's a loud bell. And they rang it when it was time to come home, which was usually in the summer. It was like 9:00.
Yeah.
And the neighbors said, when the Miller bell rings, that's when you all come home.
There you go. There you go. The Millers know with all goodniks running around with your shenanigans. But so it was that kind of like hit me. I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
kind of like these eras that are gone, but
we are in a different world, and we will continue to be in a different world.
Yeah. But then we also watched. I know it's post the holidays, but then we watched this movie that was making a lot of people's top films of 2024 list, and it's called Christmas Eve in Miller's Point, and it is one of those movies. Again, I am not a nostalgic person. You are.
Yes.
Very much so.
Yeah, I am.
And this was a movie that as soon as I started watching it became instantly nostalgic for me. It was, it follows a very large Italian family one night on Christmas Eve. And just the volume of people inside this small suburban house, the number of parents and kids running around, the kids all dressed up in their their niceties for the holidays, the crazy gift exchange, the banter, but then it also it's not. I think it's a Christmas incidental movie because it just follows this group of people as these are their traditions. But then you also get conversations like, what are we going to do about mom? And we're selling the house, and the kids sneak out and, they go and they hang out with all the other teenagers. There's something just really, it captured the spirit of a moment. When all the young kids get tired, there was a room where you just kind of tossed all the kids and they slept on beds, that whole night. I don't know. It was really lovely. It's called Christmas Eve in Miller's Point.
Miller's Point. Okay.
Yeah. And
I love that kind of movie.
Yeah, I mean,
as soon as football's over, I'll start watching movies.
There you go. It's a huge ensemble cast. I mean, huge.
People we know?
No,
nobody.
No. I mean, no one's that's big and famous, but every performance is so wonderful, and
that's good to know.
Yeah.
We saw. I forgot to mention last. We went out and saw Complete Unknown the day after Christmas.
Oh,
we were at the first matinee.
Yeah. How is the?
Loved it.
All righty.
Loved it.
Mr. Chalamet is doing
all right.
I'm a big
Bob Dylan fan. Chalamet was great. Ed Burns was great. Is that who was in it? Ed Burns?
I can't remember.
Is that his name? It was just fantastic. A great movie. I wanted to see more. Okay, now let's go to the next part of Dylan's life because. But I'm a long time Bob Dylan
fan.
Yeah, of course. So many people are. He's a poet of our generation. So yeah, of course everybody's recommending it. I don't think I talked to anybody that didn't. So
all right, well,
he's going to be on Saturday Night Live. He's going to actually be the musical guest and the guest host when they come back on the 25th.
Really?
Timothy, yeah.
All right. Did he do a good job with the?
He did a great job with the vocals. He really did, and playing. And played harmonica too. I mean, although emulating Dylan on harmonica is not the most technical, but you still have to get the vibe.
Yeah, 100%. All right. So anyway. Is it going to be like all Dylan all the time? I guess on that episode.
Where?
All Dylan, all that on that episode. I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Because I mean, I don't unless he's got a burgeoning music career. Mr. Chalamet.
He could. He's got a lot going on.
All right, he does. He's got a lot of hair too.
Well, he got made fun of at the Golden Globes, which we'll talk about towards the end of the show.
Yeah.
Nikki Glaser.
She did great.
She was great.
Nikki Glaser was great.
She got a couple good ones in.
Yeah, Nikki Glaser is great. But before we do that, we should probably take a break. But hey, did you know that Monday morning on Chew's Views, Richard Chew will be taking your calls and talking to Illinois State Representative Lindsay LaPointe and Jenny Rowland Shea, Director of Public Lands at the Center for American Progress. And if you missed Richard's Friday morning interview with Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, you can find it on Choose Views, Featured Interviews podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. That's Choose Views, weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m. Central, right here on WCPT 820. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, so much to talk about. Anita Bryant is dead.
Yippee. Sorry, but yeah.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah. There it is. So we'll talk and we'll dip our toes into that as well as the awfulness that's going on. So stick around. You're listening to Out Chicago right here on WCPT Heartland Signal.
Hi, this is musician Homer Mars, and welcome back to Out Chicago on WCPT.
Welcome back to Out Chicago. Scott Duff here, along with Ellen Miller, rolling along. I was giving my critiques on some classic musicians that drive me a little kooky pants.
We should do a whole podcast on what we say during the break.
We should. That should be our featured podcast right there.
There
we are. Because could you swear? On the feature podcast?
Yes, you can.
I think we can.
Yes, you can say whatever you want on the podcast.
As long as it's not broadcast.
No, on the podcast.
Right, but as long as it's not broadcast.
On the radio.
On the radio.
But yes, oh my God, all the podcasts.
Great, because I've got a lot to say about, again, some classic musicians' voices that drive me.
Neil Young and Bob Dylan. He's not fond of their voices. Two of my absolute biggest influences in my guitar playing, singing, harmonica playing world. That's why I play harmonica, those two guys.
Because of Really?
Because of Dylan and Neil Young. Because I started out as a folk guitarist.
Right.
When I was 12.
That tracks.
And I started playing the rack harmonica, that style, playing along. I wrote music playing along. They influenced me. The reason I play harmonica is those two guys.
And they are incredible musicians and lyricists.
Yes, they are. But they have their own
They have their very own unique style. Mm-hmm. There we go.
What do our listeners think of these artists? Let's hear. Let's talk about fun things.
Well, 773-763-9278. Where do you weigh in on the Dylan and Neil Young, Tom Waits debate? Listen, there's an artist named Holly Cole. She's a Canadian artist. She's great. She was kind of had a moment like late 90s, mid to late 90s. She did an entire cover of Tom Waits songs. The album's called Temptation. It is amazing.
In like a normal voice, shall we say?
Yeah, and like, but in her own voice. But
voice.
these beautiful.
You get the lyrics and
you get the lyrics and you get the melodies and everything. I'm like, it's incredible. Like again, their musicianship is not up for question.
You weren't living here during. No, you weren't. Frank's Wild Years, the play that Steppenwolf play that Tom Waits wrote. No.
When was that? I mean, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean,
you weren't.
I don't know.
Yeah, you weren't. It was the 80s. You weren't. You were still.
No, I wasn't.
You were in diapers or something still.
I was still running around the wilds, having adventures with my friends.
I got to know Tom Waits a little bit during that period because I was at XRT and I did an XRT night, and Steppenwolf was my account, and but
you were dating a member.
I was dating a member of the cast of that show.
Oh,
but we didn't start dating till right after that show, but. When we did start dating, I one night one of the performances was attended by Bob Dylan and Tom Petty.
Did you just lose your mind?
And I said to him, oh my God, you are performing in front of Tom Petty
and Bob Dylan.
That's in the old Briar Street Theater.
Yeah. The Briar Street Theater, or the one that was on Halstead further down?
No, it was the Briar Street. It was done there. It was done there. It was not done.
Because it needed to be a bigger venue.
And he's like, he just closed
his
eyes. He did it,
Yep.
but can you imagine having those two guys in the audience when you're doing a show?
No. Like, I was nervous enough having, like, Doug Wright, who is a playwright, in the audience. I was playing him. I am my own wife. Yeah.
So I remember when.
Yeah, but I was playing him, and he was there.
That
was also a little weird.
That's gotta be weird, but yeah, performing for those guys.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh my gosh! Speaking of Briar Street Theater, Blue Man closed.
They did, and people protested. Did you see that?
Oh,
I saw
closing?
it in the paper. Yes.
Oh wow!
People protested. Former Blue Men were protesting because they felt like it was abrupt.
Yeah, well, actually, so a friend of mine who is with Blue Man Boston, he got his start here, Blue Man in Chicago. He came in this week, so we got to catch up. We haven't seen each other in about like 8 years.
On all of it?
He's like, well, it's a very strange. Blue Man was bought by Cirque, and Cirque doesn't really seem to enjoy. I don't know. There's a lot of how the sausage is made. So I think it's one of those things. Like New York is closing.
I think there's only going to be Orlando or something.
Boston is still going on. Because he's still working there. Boston's still going, and the Vegas show, and I guess Orlando. But then they're like, we don't know what we're going to do because he's a gay man, and he's like, so do we?
But what a run. I mean, what goes that long?
It's incredible. I know, 30 years?
30 years.
30 years.
I was there opening night 30 years ago.
Yeah. It was quite a feat, God. quite a run.
It was.
But he's also somebody who's like he's been working there for I think about 20 years, and so if his show closes, he's like, so what do I do? Because it's very weird. He's a stage manager, and he's the production stage manager there, and trying to get another stage management job has been proving difficult, even though he's been with this like gigantic company, this production company. And he's been like, he helps with tours and special events and everything. He's like, I don't know what to do. So does that mean I move to Florida? And he's like, I don't want to move to Florida, especially in this climate right now. And speaking of Florida, Anita Bryant is dead.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Didn't you think she was already dead?
I did. Well, it turns out she was already dead. She died in December, and we didn't know about it.
They just released it this week.
They just released it this week. But for those folks out there who might not understand why there's a little bit of a gleeful note in our voices, if you do not know who Anita Bryant is, she's a former Miss Oklahoma and orange juice enthusiast who basically began the modern anti-LGBTQ movement. She founded this organization called Save Our Children, which is an anti-gay organization that tied homosexuality to perceived threats against children. Does that sound familiar to what's going on right now? And actually, this move totally backfired on her because she became the enemy of gay rights leaders that needed to build a movement of our own. So she became the focus of that. She famously got a cream pie in the face in Des Moines.
I remember it well.
In Des Moines, she was not. She was.
She started the hate.
She
organized the hate.
Yeah, it's kind of what she did. She kind of created a blueprint for. This is how we're going to go after the gay community, and it started in Florida. There we go. And as a result, like even she tried to have several comebacks. She had this kind of a career. She was a singer. She sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Yeah, 1971 Super Bowl. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was big. She had a thing. She was a former beauty queen. Yep. She did all this stuff.
She was the spokesperson for orange juice.
Yep. Which
go on.
There's so much that happened. Was good, Sweetie chiming in?
No, Kathy Richardson's chiming in. I know Aaron Pyman, Kay, personally, the guy who played her in Face. God bless him. Pied her in the face.
Pied her in the face.
God
there we
bless
go.
Him.
Yep.
Thanks, Kath.
Yeah.
If you see him, thank him again.
But what she did is, again, she kind of created a playbook. She started out in, I believe it was in Dade County, Florida, where they were having an initiative to keep it legal to discriminate against LGBTQ folks for like housing, employment, all that good stuff. And she was right on board with that. And she came out. Her 1977 book is entitled The Anita Bryant Story, The Survival of Our Nation's Families and the Threat of Militant Homosexuality. So she basically, again, wrote the playbook that people are using right now to come after us.
And why was she so full of hate over homosexuality? What was her...
Most of the time, I swear it's the squeaky wheel.
That's what...
It's most of the time it's the squeaky wheel. I'm saying you've got some self-loathing homosexuals out there, and if you are brought up in like a conservative Christian environment, which she was, and she came up in a very conservative time, I think maybe she'd
I wonder.
She might have been a friend of Dorothy.
I wonder, I will also say, because we thought she was dead, because she had been very quiet the last bunch of years.
Because her career tanked after. We
put her in her place is what happened.
Yeah, there was a boycott on orange juice.
Yes.
She lost that contract. She tried to have some sort of, she kind of became the butt of jokes. Here's the thing that I really enjoyed about the New York Times obituary about her. They were very respectful, as they are, because they are a good news organization, but they went out of their way to be like, and she eventually became the butt of people's jokes. And they went through, there was at least 2 paragraphs of like, Airplane made fun of her. This movie made fun of her. This person made fun of her. Even the New York Times called her, like, reduced her to the singer who sells orange juice. Like, they went through and were like, she was not a good person. She was not, and she had a comeback special, I want to say like early 80s, and in the New York Times review of the special, they're like, she's trying to be very, very wholesome, but there's something behind her that you can just see that is just so mean and aggressive and nasty. Talk about nasty women.
She was a nasty, nasty woman.
She was, and so she kind of fell away. She moved back to, I think, Oklahoma, and then tried to regenerate her career in the 90s, and she was touring trailer parks. Oh, God. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, well.
A lot of hate, a lot of vitriol.
See ya.
And actually, our frequent caller, Steve, has something to say about Anita Bryant. Steve, welcome. You're on Out Chicago.
Yes, and I would tend to agree with you. If you can't say anything good about someone, don't say anything at all.
Right.
So I'll leave it at that. But she was Carrie Lake before Carrie Lake. And so, whether it's Carrie Lake or crazy governor from Alaska or any number of other so-called, people who should be on the side of groups that have been traditionally disenfranchised. So people like Sarah Palin 20 years ago, again, Carrie Lake today, and others are pretty much selling themselves vis-a-vis exploiting this view of America that no longer exists. So, oh my God, America has gay people. America has trans people. America has people of color. Women dare to hold positions of power and aren't just relegated to the kitchen. And so when you find someone who is a woman such as her and who's willing to say exactly what the establishment, the old school establishment, wants to hear, then all of a sudden you can make a great career for yourself and elevate yourself out of being what she was, which was a minor celebrity until she became a national figure, just as Carrie Lake has become, by touting things that, frankly, the world has moved past in terms of the way we think. Yeah. But, they exploited it, and they had their moment in the sun, and then they disappear. And all of them disappear. I mean, who talks about, Sarah Palin any longer? Mm-hmm. And the same thing's going to happen with Carrie Lake. So they'll have their moment in the sun, and then, if you're under 35, if you're under 40, a lot of those people just think this is a ridiculous discussion. This idea that women can't go to school, can't hold positions. Yeah. I'm going to get indignant because there's a gay couple down the street. I mean, they don't care.
They just dismiss it.
Now, where they do, yeah, exactly. Now, where they do find some traction, rather than going after the gay community, which they still dislike tremendously, they focus on the group that's much more easy to victimize, which is the trans community. It's a small community, and they want to tell you, okay, the gay thing, just forget we were against those people. But the trans thing, that's different, and you need to be on our side on that one. So I mean, again, old playbook. It'll come back around, but
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it sure is, Steve. Thank you for calling, and thank you for being of an age where you know who Anita Bryant is.
Yeah. Anyway,
ding dong, the witch is dead.
See ya.
There we are. I guess we should probably take a break.
Yes, it's that time again.
It's that time again. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, there's more. There's so much going on. We've got a convicted felon who's going to be the president.
Felon-elect.
The felon-elect. We've got social media getting rid of fact-checking. It's weird. So buckle up. And we're going to take a break, and there's more Out Chicago right here on WCPT, Heartland Signal.
I'm Bex Ehrman with About Face Theater. Welcome back to Out Chicago on WCPT.
Welcome back to Out Chicago. Scott Duff here and Ella Miller. We're just rolling along. And hey, Monday from 2 to 5, Jen Esposito is going to be here taking your calls and talking to North Central College political science professors William Muck and Susan Codd, and a Palestine expert, Lauren Leibarger, author and professor of classics and world religions at Ohio University. So you can live, local, and progressive his weekdays from 2 to 5 right here on WCPT 820. They were going to have a lot to talk about as we're coming up, as we talked about the felon in chief. That happens in 8 days, so buckle up to continue on the ride of the anti-gay stuff that's been going on. Let's just see. This week, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine signed a Don't Say Gay bill into law. Horrible. Because of the Parents' Bill of Rights, within 90 days, educators in Ohio will be forbidden from discussing LGBTQ plus identities unless it's to forcibly out queer students to their guardians.
Following in Florida's footsteps.
Yes. Isn't that wonderful? Yes, it is. It's beginning. Oh, and here's another one. Idaho Republican legislators introduced a resolution on Tuesday urging the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn marriage equality. Oh,
here we go.
Oh, there we go. They claim the Supreme Court overstepped its authority by requiring states to recognize same-sex marriages. It also calls for a return to the so-called natural definition of marriage as between one man and one woman. Concept supporters insist is rooted in tradition. I don't get that. What is natural about marriage? I mean, really, what is nature? What is natural about marriage? If you're talking about just procreating and keeping the species going, okay, sure, maybe. But then we also know there are gay monkeys, gay giraffes, there are gay bears. I know a couple of gay bears. I had lunch with one on Monday, but I don't. Yeah. So here we go. Here we go.
And so it begins.
Or I guess, and so it continues. Because last year was the biggest year of anti-LGBTQ legislation being proposed across the country.
The further we get, the more they want to go backwards with us. And it's really, really heartbreaking and sad.
And I don't get it.
It's just a lightning rod for them with their most conservative constituents. It's just it's a way to gain power.
Is it a way to kind of distract people, like when they say we're going to make Canada the 51st state and we're going to buy Greenland and we
might take it forcibly.
We're going to take it, or we're going to take the Panama Canal too. Is it all just a big distraction so that they can't sell they're cutting taxes for the billionaires and Elon Musk is slowly taking over the country? Is that what is that the strategy? To look over
Sounds
here,
like it.
Look over here to these gay people.
Like that's a possibility.
Look over here to these trans people while we fiddle around over here. That is what
sowing discord. Mm-hmm.
That's what's going on, and and a lot of people are falling for it.
Yeah,
it's like
That's what they voted for.
That's what they voted for.
49%.
Like I get emails. I get I get emails from the Chicago Sun-Times. Like here's like top stories or whatever. Like I'm getting stories about eggs.
Yeah.
About egg prices. I'm like, this is what people were worried about. Mm-hmm. But
this is the mentality that we're dealing with. We have a country that is like separate, worlds apart in their thinking.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's yeah, and earlier I think it was Steve who was saying that like people are kind of over it. It's like no, people are not. Whatever progress we have been making as a queer movement, whether it comes to rights, marriage, all of these things. I also firmly believe there are huge swaths of this country where the hatred, fear, and vitriol and downright disgust of gay folks has been flourishing and has been being nourished over the past 15 years, ever since the Tea Party came into power. I have my own. I had my own, instance in like the early 2000s, like late thoughts, of having students pulled from my class because I was gay. If I had any confrontation with a student where I was in the right, they would say, well, don't you think Mr. Duff is a little sensitive about those things? And they would say it like that. Oh, boy. I had a group of parents pray over me. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
So there is like, it's very odd. Like it's here and it hasn't gone away. And I think it's just going to be worse, like
undoubtedly it's going to be worse.
Yeah. It's just going to be, it's going to be hard. And I'm a cis white dude.
Right.
Like, and I'm getting this. What are our trans siblings?
They're out to get them.
What's going on? What about our friends who have like trans kids? All of my friends, like I have several friends who have kids who have come out as trans. Some are in like Mississippi, and they are terrified right now of what's going to be happening.
In a very rough position being in any of those. I mean, luckily here in Chicago we have a different world, but they have a different world down there that's dangerous for them.
Right, and it's really being fed by misinformation and lies. And now things are going to get a little even trickier with that. I mean, look, because, it announced this week that Meta has joined in the fun by announcing changes to its content across its platforms, which is Facebook, Instagram, Threads. They're removing fact checkers, reinstating the promotion of political content, loosening restrictions on topics like gender and immigration, and allowing hate speech to pop back up. So now X, formerly known as Twitter, has always been a bit of the wild, wild west out there. Like it is one of the few people that I followed, Bianca Del Rio. She's an incredible drag queen. Begins every day with like, all right, who you mad at today? Like it is nothing but like shouting into this void. And now that is what's going to be happening with
Facebook, Instagram,
and Threads. The new guidelines now permit language that excludes or insults individuals based on sex, gender, or sexual orientation, citing topics like transgender rights, immigration, and homosexuality as justifications for social discourse. And perhaps most alarming, GLAAD points to Meta as explicitly allowing claims of mental illness and abnormality tied to gender or sexual orientation, referring to such statements as part of, quote, political and religious discourse. The use of terms like transgenderism, which is a dumb right-wing word that is frequently used to delegitimize trans identities, is now codified into Meta's policies that the GLAAD warns. And women may also now be referred to as property.
Yeah, that's called rationalizing hate.
Yeah, well, what they're doing, it's kowtowing towards this new administration because they're coming after.
He met with the goofball.
He met with Goofball. He gave Goofball money. He's giving Ding Dong money.
For his inauguration.
Like many companies, I believe he's raised $170 million for this inauguration.
Yeah.
It better be dynamic because I ain't going to watch it. But I mean, it's like.
It's a blueprint for fascism is threatening all these people that you think would care, but when you threaten them and then okay, I'm with you. Here's my money. I'm taking my policies away of fact checking. It is the beginning of a fascist regime.
Oh yeah, and everybody, and let's also let's not exclude our other good friend DEI.
Yeah.
They're going after any corporation or school. I mean,
they blame DEI for the fires.
Yeah.
I mean, who politicizes? Only the Republicans politicizes something like what's going on in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Oh,
leave it to them.
It's.
I know it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's just too much.
I know.
Sometimes
we got to take care of ourselves. We have to do self-care. We have to make cheesecakes and cookies and go see movies.
Yes, we have to do that. That sounds great.
Yeah.
But
and we have to fight. I mean, Indivisible Illinois, Indivisible Chicago. I'm getting emails. They've got plans. We got to keep going. We got to keep fighting.
Oh yeah,
we have to stay united. We can't let them, break us down. And it's easy to do, especially with the sadness going on in California right now.
Oh, California is just it's mind-boggling. Like I can't even comprehend.
I mean,
it,
I was
really.
watching TV, just crying, just looking at these aerial photos of just total devastation.
Yeah, Jerry used to live there. He lived in there when he was he lived in LA when he was in his early 20s, and he was just like, oh, that place is gone. That's gone. Like it's just
Chicago. We have a lot of people in California. A lot of people have a lot of friends and family that live there. I mean, it's if you're a person that likes places like Chicago or New York, you also might be a person that lives in LA for your business or what have you. And it's just, oh my God. It's so many friends, so many friends. Most of my friends are out of harm's way, but they don't know yet. I mean, this can continue. I mean, the winds are picking up tomorrow.
Going. Yeah, no, today.
But Today.
Yeah, today's the day.
But, giving to the Red Cross, they need so much support right now. You can't even imagine the things these people need, from medication. I mean, not just clothing and shelter and, they left their medication. They left their...
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. And again, with these new regulations that have been taken off or new policy changes in social media, because a lot of people do, as sad as it is, get their information from social media.
And I'm guilty too. I mean, I look at my phone all the time. I use Facebook, but I've never seen so much AI and lies on Facebook as I've seen even recently. It's just turning into... Everything you see, you must really vet. You cannot.
You got to question everything.
You have to question every single thing you see on social media. You've got to go look for some facts. Of course, you go to Google to get the facts, but hopefully you'll get different sources.
You get different sources that are going on there
because it's just it's never ending. These between, like I said, between photos that are. I mean, photos a picture can say 1,000 words, and those photos are AI generated. They're not even true. They're not reality.
I know, and that is what we're going into, and that is why I think everybody needs to kind of step away from the socials, or know that you're not going to change people's minds on a social media platform. You can correct them,
right?
So no, that is actually not correct. But by that time, the lie has already spread halfway around the world. And then trying to go back and clean it up. These are really strange times.
I don't know what's going to change it, Scott, because the reason he won was based on fear and lies. That's how he won. Fear and lies. And how do we turn that back? I don't have the answer. Maybe somebody does, but I don't have the answer right now.
I don't think anybody does right now. I mean, that has been their big playbook. That has been their playbook since Reagan. You don't go against the party. The party is infallible, and you organize discontent. You find the groups that that are easy targets that you can pick off.
And use alternative facts, which are called lies.
Lies. Yeah, you can just make stuff up.
But here at CPT, truth matters.
There we are. Yeah, facts matter.
Facts and
matter.
Truth still matter.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. But it's kooky pants about what is happening around.
We're going to have no shortage of things to talk about in the coming days, weeks, and months.
I know. God. Oh, God.
Got to stay strong.
Yeah.
Got to stay strong and got to stay vigilant. We have to remain vigilant.
Yeah, and the whole thing, I think the biggest argument is that like they're policing free speech, and we have no problem with free speech. And I think people who like to tout free speech, they don't stop and understand that, yeah, you can say whatever you want to say, but there are consequences to what you say if it is not true.
Yeah, we have
like
fire
that
in the
is
theater.
that is the thing. Or like, as much as I like the past, there was a 4-year chunk where I really wanted to swear a lot on there, and I can't swear on there because there would be consequences for that, for me, for the station, whatever. And that's just an expletive. That's not just giving out a downright lie about what is happening. And that to me is the biggest crux of all these people who are running around just screaming free speech, like free speech is back on social media. We can finally say what we want to say.
Free lies.
It does not mean that you are not held accountable for what you say. Whether it's hate, whether it's, endangering somebody's life, whether it is just out and out lies, we have to think, yes.
They've fostered a culture where telling lies is just fine if it gets to your end result.
Indeed. The ends justify the means. Yeah, that's Machiavelli, the prince. All right.
All right.
There we go.
On
that happy note, we're going to take a break, give you some news that has actual facts in it. And when we come back, it is the second hour of Out Chicago right here on WCPT Heartland Signal.
I'd like to welcome you to WCPT AM's Out Chicago. Think of us as Sunday brunch with your gay best friends. Now please welcome your host, Scott Duff.
Welcome back to the second hour of Out Chicago. Scott Duff here, along with Ella Miller.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, just trucking along here. Snowy day. It's kind of lovely.
It is.
We got a great second hour lined up for you today. We're going, we like to be artsy fartsy. Usually we're a little bit more fartsy. Today we're going to be a little bit.
Yourself.
Well, we are.
Yeah.
We're fartsy, but we are going to be talking with some artsy folks a little bit later on this hour. We're going to be speaking with director Stephen Shellhart, who is helming the new production of Fun Home. That's going to be with Porchlight Music Theater. Love that show. Alison Bechtel, so queer. It's so great.
It's a great show.
All of the feels.
All of them.
Excited about that. And I'm also very, very, very excited about our first guest on this lovely show. Michael Cheyenne is a queer Iranian American writer and performer, an Emmy Award nominee, and an Out Magazine Out 100 honoree. In Avaz, he plays the role of his own larger-than-life mother, Roya, who welcomes audiences into her home to celebrate the Iranian New Year and shares her quintessential American journey from Tehran to Tehrangeles, California. And joining us now is Michael Cheyenne. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I'm at brunch with my gay best friend.
Well, you should be. You should be. First of all, how are you doing? How are you holding up?
I am doing okay. I'm in LA, it's been a challenging couple of days for everybody here, and it's been really quite devastating. But I'm also amidst the sort of chaos of it all. Just like I'm finding a lot of hope in community coming together, and there's a lot of strength and love being shared here, and just trying to do our best to bring that into the world.
Yeah. Well, this has got to be like a very interesting time to do a show that is about your mom, and then about Los Angeles as well. How did the show come about?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'll talk about the parallel because that's also been something that we've talked about in the last couple of days. So, I grew up in LA in what I call Tehrangeles, formerly known as Westwood, next to the kebab shop you love. And I actually started out as a magician. I grew up doing magic.
What?
I was an only child.
But there we go. Great.
Wait,
talk to me about this. Did you perform for like family and friends and parties?
I performed all over. I was big on the bar mitzvah circuit.
Love it.
I was doing it all over. I had a magic company, and I don't know if you know the Magic Castle, which is a
yes,
it's a
very
historic
famous
place here
historic,
in LA.
Magic club in LA. Sure.
Yeah, and it's where magicians go to train and perform and study and learn the art of magic. And then they have a number of theaters and rooms that folks can go to. And so I joined the Magic Castle when I was 12. So it was a crazy story. But I joined when I was 12, and I started performing there. I did brunch shows every week. And that was really my training ground for the theater. It kind of set the stage, literally, for a life in theater, because it's so theatrical and so fabulous and so fun, and you're also learning about character, and you're learning about about sort of creating a world on stage. And so I, many years later, I started writing plays, and that gave me a container to really think about my identity and my queerness, and to do that in a sort of deeper way. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of my background as a performer. And then I wanted to really think about my relationship with my mother. We had a very complicated relationship. We were just coming from different worlds. She had come from Iran in the 80s, and right after the revolution, the Iranian Revolution, and we were just coming from different perspectives and languages and attitudes, and we just didn't really see eye to eye. And so I interviewed my mother. She never really talked about Iran for my whole, as I was growing up, never really talked about it at all. Mm. I interviewed her, and I think that interview really opened something for her, because she could talk about things that she'd never really talked about, and that we never had the occasion to talk about. It just kind of like the formality of it also just opened it up, gave her a floor for it. Huh. And that was really the germ that sort of started this play. And so
did you have this play like in the back of your head, I really want to write this show? Or was it just like, hey mom, let's sit down and formally, like, for another project, like let's talk about Iran? Or like, was this show, like you portraying your mother, was that always in the back of your head? Oh, okay, cool.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, look, my mother is a fabulous, larger-than-life, incredibly vibrant person. Mm-hmm. And she's super funny, and every other line's a joke, with her. And I was like, I just kind of realized that there were things about her past that I had no window into and no idea about. And so I was like, let's just set a time. Let's set a recorder down. I just want to ask you a couple of questions. And it was incredibly awkward, because it was the first time I think both of us were coming to this very vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And, she was trying to like joke her way out of that. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting too. And then we got to some real, truth about our relationship, about her past, about her history. And that's when it really came to me, like the way to understand my mother would be to really put myself in her shoes, and what better way than to do that with the theater? Yeah. And so, part of the journey of the play is like, she is hosting you. So she's hosting you for this fabulous kind of larger than life party in the theater. You walk in and you're instantly like transported into this space, and
the images that I've seen are just outstanding. I'm like, oh, I want to be there. I want to be a part of that. Like, it just looks so gorgeous and inviting. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I got very excited.
No, please. Oh, you'll be there, baby.
I will be there. I know.
That's great. So yeah, the set, it's the Persian New Year. So we're bringing you into the ritual of this new year, and people really are like dancing in their seats before the show even starts, and it feels like a party. And then as she's hosting this party and sort of entertaining her guests, she comes face to face with these ghosts from her past, and sort of has to come to terms with that.
So what's your mom's reaction now that it is fully formed to the production? How is she looking at it? How does she feel about it?
At first she was like, well, why you want to write a play about me? What there is to write. And now she's like, so when are we doing my play?
See,
it's your play now.
I kind of felt it would go that way. Your mom sounds.
She's like, I take 10%, baby. I'm like, okay, she's taking 10%. Everyone's an agent now.
Yeah, of course. I'm of Greek descent, and your mom sounds a lot like my mom, and that would be the exact same thing. She'd be skeptical in the beginning, and then when it fully formed, she'd be all in and wanting more. So I'm so happy that she's.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
we're actually going to hit 100 shows in Chicago, which I'm really excited about. And what's crazy about the show to me, and what's so not crazy, but it's really exciting and touching, is the people that come up to me after, and from all different backgrounds, and they're like, that's my mom, that is my mother. That's my relationship with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And people from all different, I'm telling my particular story, but it's kind of that idea that like in the personal, you find the universal.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, they've written actually stories about the play, about how the people come back a number of times. It's a crazy thing. I've never really experienced it with a play. Like, people come back again and again. They bring, mothers will bring their kids will bring their moms, families will, like, we were just in Denver. We're on tour. We're a national tour, and we've had amazing, like, sold out runs, and we broke records and all this. But what's crazy is, like, this one woman in particular, she had seen the show 3 or 4 times, and the last time she came towards closing. She brought 20 people from her family and friends.
What?
And she was like, she was like, I didn't know her at all, and she was like, this is my story, and I wanted my friends to know my story.
Wow.
That's how much I relate to this.
Talk about universal. Yeah, that says it right there. Wow.
But how does that make you feel, like, as a creator, as somebody, as an artist, as somebody who makes things, and, like, as you said, taking something that's very specific and very personal and finding that lightning in a bottle where it becomes universal? How does that make you feel?
I mean, I feel like for me, theater and making art, I know this language might sound a little sort of abstract, but I do feel like I'm kind of channeling the play. I'm channeling my mother. Mm-hmm. I am. One of the first things I did was to write this. Was a playwriting teacher at this retreat that I was at for Lambda Literary, amazing organization, that said, put your hand over your heart and feel the heartbeat of a character. And I did that. And he said, just listen to what the character says. And I felt the presence of my mother. And after that interview, the play sort of poured out of me. And, I think my job is just to tell my story as honestly and accurately as I can. And in doing that, I mean, it's amazing to see how people connect with it. And also, look, I think people we want to laugh and we want to have a great time. And, like, she is dealing with hard truths in the play, but what I hope people take from it is the joy and the reinvention. What we were talking about with these horrible fires is, like, she was talking with me about how when she left her country, her father, her family basically said, on a dime, we have to leave tomorrow. We're packing everything. We're going. And, that was kind of life for several years, moving from place to place, getting out of Iran. And so she was just drawing the parallel, and, like, this is a story of reinvention. This is a story of resilience. And I think it's the joy that really shines through in her story and hopefully in this play.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine. It strikes me because, we're going to be speaking with the director of Fun Home, and it seems to me there's a little bit of parallels between these shows in terms of an adult child looking back at their parent and gaining a better understanding, and I guess maybe even, like, shattering a little bit of that parentalness, and the humanity comes out.
True. Yeah.
Did you find that, like, as you were, conducting these interviews and creating the play, where you're like, oh yeah, my mom is a person, like that weird moment where I think if you're fortunate, you have that moment, and when you really understand, like, oh, my parents were just people and doing what they had to do.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think definitely, for me, it was like I had to sort of grapple with what my mother went through and how she, at age 20, basically escaped her country, came to Los Angeles. She wanted to get an education. So she was the first of her family to leave. And I was like thinking, like, how, if I had to do something similar, how would I sort of move through that? And just the impossibility of her life really sort of took me by not by surprise. I mean, I knew that she was a resilient person, but it just moved me, and to think about putting this story, like, I'm part of my experience with this play is I'm putting her story into my body, and I'm literally embodying it, and so what does it look like to do that through these lenses of, like, body and gender and sex, sexuality, and all these different sort of lenses, right? To think about her story from my vantage point, and also to, like, I think mothers and sons, right? It's like
it's a thing.
Yeah,
it's a thing.
It's a thing. There's the quote. There's the full quote for this. It's a thing. We're gonna put that on the poster.
There we are. Mothers and fathers. It's a thing.
It is a thing. As someone that has two brothers,
I want my 10%. I want my 10% now.
You got it. Yeah, talk to my mother. She's my agent. Listen.
Right. Well, okay. So I'm sorry. But, I love how, like, in your bio you describe yourself as a maximalist, and it's clear that, like, your mom was the nurturer of that. What exactly do you mean by a maximalist?
Yes. Well, I think my mother is also probably a maximalist, and Persian culture, like, part of what I wanted to do with this is really bring folks into a culture that they may not be familiar with, and certainly have very rarely, if at all, seen on stage. It is like, again, when you walk into the theater, like, you're walking into her home, and there's, like, the set was designed by Beowulf Barrett, amazing. I mean, he's won, like, every other Tony, it feels like, Tony Award. And he had never done an Iranian show, and he said to me, I said, well, Beowulf, I'm so excited to be working together, and what are you thinking? I mean, I know you're not Iranian. And he's like, listen, how many chandeliers do you want? I'm like, 9. He's like, great. So, that's like one level of the maximalism, I think, of the show. But it's also just like, it's the larger than lifeness, like, we are consummate hosts. And, even, like, when I was doing magic, when I was a kid growing up, like, it was always about checking in with our guests and putting on a show, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of my work actually has to do with what's behind the curtain, what's behind the larger than lifeness. And I think it's a really great tension, because in the play, what I do is, like, I love that. I love the comedy of the play, and I think of the play very much as a comedy, even though it's dealing with big sort of questions about identity. And, I put the biggest laughs right before the biggest gut punch, or vice versa,
as
right?
You should. Yes.
It kind of opens you up in this different way in the theater. You're like, oh, makes you question, like, I'm with this person, I'm with this character. And, like, oh, my God, that's so funny. And then, oh, wait, that's an uncomfortable truth that she just said about her life, yeah, and then in my personal life, I think just like bright colors, bold patterns,
Yeah, muchness. Take up space.
Muchness,
That's
yeah.
what I say.
Muchness.
Take up space. Before I let you go, I do have to ask, what does Avaz mean?
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, Avaz is it's a word. It's an untranslatable word.
Okay.
And it means it literally translates to like voice or song, but the translation that I love is it's a song as it's being sung. So it's a song in motion. We have different words for song in Persian in our language, and this is what came to me with the play was like her. This is a song in motion. My mother is in many ways still singing her song. She completely reinvented herself. She completely created this incredible life in LA, and it's very much in motion, in process, and so is our relationship. Our relationship has completely changed from when I first, from when I first started writing the play to understand her and to understand us, to now. I mean, it's like night and day. And just to touch on your earlier question, like it does feel like kind of an amends to my mother. It's a love letter, not only to my mother, but to mothers
everywhere.
Sons, like trying to think about like, both just what it means to inhabit a mother-son relationship and dynamic. What's my part, and to see things from a different angle, which again I think is like what people hopefully and have connected with Avaz. So
the title sounds perfect for what you're presenting. It really is.
Yeah, I love the idea of a song being sung, like active, like this. It is continuous, it is active, it is moving forward. And mothers and sons, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
And mothers and gay sons.
And mothers and gay
is
sons.
a real thing.
It's a thing. It is a thing.
Mothers and gay sons, totally. And you'll hear in the play, just lastly, I'll say, like, she is, I wanted to turn a lot of the stereotypes and ideas that people have about Persians and our culture on their head. And you come in and she's like, she, in the first couple of minutes, she's like, I'm the queen of gays,
Right.
And she goes on, there's a whole bit about how, when we talk about maximalism, I mean, talk about an overlap. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
that's a thing.
That is a thing, and I cannot wait to go see this thing. Avaz, written and performed by Michael Cheyenne, is going to be runs January 21st through February 9th at Chicago Shakespeare. For tickets, and you will not want to miss this one. A celebration and the joy that it sounds like it's coming across. I am so excited for this. For tickets, go to chicagoshakes.com. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Michael.
Much love to your loved ones and family that are out in Los Angeles right now.
Yes.
And may the story continue to be one of being actively sung and a story of resilience. So thank you for joining us today, and we cannot wait to see you here in Chicago.
Thank you so much. See you at Chicago Shakespeare, everybody.
See you there.
Come on.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. We got to take a quick break, and when we come back, there's more Out Chicago right after this.
I'm Amanda Civitello with Creating Iris. Welcome back to Out Chicago on WCPT.
Welcome back to Out Chicago. Scott Duff here, along with Ellen Miller. Just rolling along right here. I'm so excited about Avaz.
I am too. I was thinking about my own mother, who was the way Michael described his mother was a lot like my mother. A big personality.
Welcoming, like, come on in.
Yeah, food, celebratory, family, close relationship with my brothers. The mother-son relationship is...
It's a thing.
It is a thing.
It's a thing.
And gay men and their mothers have even a more special relationship. It's...
Do you remember, just not even just like in terms of relationships, like especially like when it comes to your queerness, but do you remember a moment when you when you were like a young person and you realized what your parents did. I mean, it's like I remember when I was like,
what they did in life.
Well, no, just in terms of like them being a person, or what they did for like the gifts that they gave to you just from them being a person. Like I remember when I was graduated from college, I had just done a tour. My first job out of school was doing this tour. I was back in Chicago. I was working at the Gap on Michigan Avenue. My schedule was like I would have to be there at 7:00 in the morning after being there until 11:00 at night, and like all this sort of things. And then I was like, wait a second. My mom was a nurse, a single mom raising kids with a schedule where she would like, sometimes she'd have to work in the evening, sometimes she'd work in the morning, sometimes she'd have to work at night. And she was, I was a I was like a 20-something and I was exhausted. And I was like, wait, my mom did this her entire, and just have that moment that moment of just like, oh, wait, they're real people. Did you ever have that moment?
I think when I went away to college, I had a bigger appreciation and understanding for my parents. Both of them. But I think, honestly, since my mother passed away 5 years ago, there's so many more things that I appreciate about her. Like when I found a lot of, like her operas, for example, her books of opera. When I found things, I wished I would have discussed them more with her. I wish, because we just look at our mom as someone that takes care of us, because that's your initial relationship.
Yeah. But
then as you grow older and you start seeing them as, wow, it's so funny that we have a hard time doing that for so long, that we just look at them in that caretaker role. But then when you start seeing them as real people and what they went through, and they were young once. It's hard to picture your parents young once.
Oh yeah.
And when you start really,
let alone having sex.
Well, that too.
You know what I mean?
That's
but there's like that whole thing.
Everybody has a hard time with. But, and even today, Scott, I think about, gosh, I wish I would have talked to my mom more about that experience. I'm glad that Michael, has his mother still, and that he went that direction of interviewing her and then turning it into this beautiful work of art. But even this week, I was thinking about something my mom did that I don't know that I appreciated enough, or I don't know that I gave her enough credit for, Yeah. And I guess the message there is, if you have parents that are still alive, ask them about that, because their goal is to take care of you too, not to tell you all about what their hardships were growing up, like the mother here coming from. Yeah, so I think it's on us a little bit to try and draw it out of our parents, and
I guess so. But I just remember just having that moment of like, oh, this is what she did
when I went away to college.
All those years.
Yeah, when I left home, and when you look at things like anything from outside a little bit, I was like, wow, I really didn't think about that. I didn't appreciate that. I didn't realize how much she did there. I mean, my mom had 4 kids, and my dad traveled Monday through Friday.
Right. Oh,
and
I know.
Today, my friends would go crazy if they were a single mom Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
With 4 kids.
With 4
that
kids.
are close in age.
Yeah.
6, 4 under 6. So without outside
four
help.
under 6.
Yeah. Without outside help.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's very interesting. Sorry, we did just get word that we are unable to have the interview today with Porchlight Music Theater's director.
Sorry to hear that.
Yes, sorry. I lost his name. There we go. Stephen Shellhart. He's been in a bit of a fender bender. So we're
life gets in the way.
Life gets in the way. Life gets in the way. But it's just really, especially, hopefully we're going to be able to reschedule with them, especially because I think there's something really interesting about the correlation between these two shows.
Yes, when you brought it up, I'm like, of course.
Yeah, of looking back as an adult, and seeing your parents who were just being a human being and trying to do the best they can. There's definitely an amount of grace that happens depending on your relationship with your parents. Mm-hmm. I have a hard time with my dad, but still it's like, okay, you were just kind of doing what you needed to do. and just having those moments, forgetting that they are indeed human beings.
Right. I think we put them on a pedestal too. They're like, they're our mom and dad. They're our whole world is when you start out in the world, but then you start realizing that nobody's perfect. They have their. Everybody's got shortcomings a little bit, here and there. I mean, and it's the reality of it. I'm thankful that Kathy and I traveled with my parents quite a bit in the later years of their lives, and not everybody gets to do that. And sharing stories and being together and just being humans together, being friends. Not everybody gets that gift, but if you still have parents that are alive and you have a good relationship with them, talk to them about what they went through.
Or even if they're not, if they're gone, you can still take a moment just to appreciate, like, oh, they were just kind of doing what they had to do.
Right. They're just humans. They had babies, they had kids, and there's no handbook for it.
Just even like in coming back, like one thing that my mom and I never really talked about. I mean, we did a little bit, but I remember like when I came out to her, I specifically asked her I was at Northwestern. I specifically invited her up for a weekend because I wanted to tell her.
In person.
And I wanted to tell her, like, I guess, like on my turf.
Right.
As opposed to being in her house because I didn't know. And I know, like, the day after, like, we had this whole thing.
So she came up?
She came up, and I came out to her in a restaurant. It was a bad idea. Like, it was, the whole thing was just like...
It felt safe to you,
It felt safe. There was this restaurant near Northwestern called Yesterday's, and it was basically like everything that was a wagon wheel, and blah, blah, blah. And I came out to her, and I was like, Mom, I'm gay. And she said, I know. And then I just lost it. Fortunately, it was a rib joint, so there were rolls of paper towels on the tables. And so she's like handing them off, like, blah, blah, blah. But I remember the next day, she's like, I want you to go to therapy. And I got very mad at her about that.
Yeah.
But we never seeked for clarity in terms of, do you mean so that I won't be gay or so that I can help be a better person as a gay man?
You were afraid to ask that question.
Yeah,
probably.
And that's one of those things that I'm like, and I held it against her for a little bit, and we went through a very rough time. It was just hard because, again, she was, a woman of Swedish heritage that came from, like the East Coast, was in the Midwest, and she was, a divorced mom of 3 and trying to work and put their kids through school and stuff. It was just like, it was one of those things. But I don't know. There's something wonderful about.
But you came to a great place in later.
Oh, 1,000%.
It's a work in progress.
We've actually had some conversations. I'm like, that's a little too much information, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, woo.
Same.
All right.
Same.
Huh. Yeah. And I was driving a car when it was a very, let's just say, a frank discussion about sex.
Yeah, of course, I knew you were. My mother made a comment to me too. I'm like, Mom.
Whoa, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. But I don't know. Anyway, it's so great to see like art imitating, like, not art imitating life, but finding the art in everyday life, finding the creative spirit and the spark and the thing that connects us all, which is just being human. And that's one of the things that I'm very excited about. Fun Home. Hopefully, we'll be able to get them on the show in the coming weeks. And also,
Porchlight is such a great theater company.
30 years.
Yeah.
30 years. It's so weird. There's still like a couple of theater companies, like About Face, 30 years. Yeah. Timeline. They're celebrating their 30 years and they're building a new theater. Like there is something about art, whether it be live theater or music or visual art or dance or poetry or cooking or whatever. There's something about art that has a kernel of truth.
That's right.
Like the enduring things.
That's why it's endured.
States there's a truthfulness and an honesty, and you can always seek refuge.
It's a way to have a mirror in front of us.
Yeah, and you can always seek refuge in art.
You can.
So we are going to take a break. We're going to talk about more art because, again, we're fartsy and artsy.
That's right.
Over here. And last week was the Golden Globes, and we haven't even talked about that. There's been a really interesting development that's happening with one of the winners specifically Emilia Perez, the movie Emilia Perez. And we will talk about that when we come back with the final thrilling show-stopping moments about Chicago right here on WCPT Heartland Signal. And we are back. There we are. We'd like to have that moment of silence to hold close. To us. Anyway, Scott, Justin, Ella Miller, we're back, ready to go. So the Golden Globes happened last week.
Yes.
You know, did. I have to say, Jerry is just a little angel straight from heaven. Because I had to work last week and I didn't get home until about 10:30.
Did he wait to watch them with you?
Well, he's like, I started watching them and I'm like, of course you did because you were home. Like, how far? He's like, I'm like about maybe halfway, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, do you mind starting over? Because we recorded them. And he's like, sure. He was almost at the end of the whole thing. So we watched the whole thing twice. Is what he did. Okay. So thank you, Jerry Dine. That was very, very sweet of you.
Sometimes there's sometimes you miss things.
It was also great too to be like, oh, you can fast forward through this.
Yeah, right. That's the beauty of recording things.
But Nikki Glazer, she hosted. She's a comedian. She's a roast comedian specifically, which means she's very mean. She was great. I thought she was
good marks from.
I thought she knocked it out of the park. She looked gorgeous. Whoever dressed her in her several gowns. Nice. A plus. Yeah. I thought she looked great. I thought the whole evening was.
I enjoyed it.
It was fun,
and they had some increased ratings from so that's good.
Well, it hasn't been on in a while, and then it changed networks.
Right.
And hopefully the Hollywood Foreign Press has gotten their
stuff together.
Yeah. But So, but one of the big winners of the night for best musical or comedy motion picture is Emilia Perez, which I saw. We were talking about.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. Everybody loves it.
Everybody loves it, except that it has been stirring up some controversy within the trans community, specifically about misrepresentation or gross over-exaggeration. Basically, looking at these, they're saying that the story that was told was not their story. Now, I cannot say what is your story and what is not. Like, I am not here to negate your feelings at all. Because, again, I am a cis white male. I know what I know. And I don't understand. Like, I have not walked the walk of the trans experience. Emilia Perez is about a Mexican drug lord who kidnaps Zoe Saldana to hire her to work for, at the time, him, because he is transitioning. He's like, I'm done with this. I want to transition.
He's done with the life as a drug lord.
Yes. And we're talking like major, big, powerful, like rich, like all of those things, and has already started hormone therapies. And things like this. And what's like, Zoe Saldana, I need you to make this happen in a way that my family is taken care of and that I am taken care of and that people don't find out. So, because she's a lawyer, like I need you, like you will be rich. But I need you to help facilitate this so that, because I believe the line is, I can't remember the line exactly, but she has this wonderful line about like, I need to live one day as her. And she's on board and the whole thing. And again, this movie kind of defies any sort of genre. The director won for best director.
Right.
For a motion picture comedy, I believe.
Yes, it was comedy, I believe.
Or he won? No, it was the screenplay. The director won something. He also wrote the screenplay. And he said when he was writing it that he envisioned this as a 4-act opera. So it was just like, and actually when Jerry, who's in the opera world, he's like, this feels like an opera. It just feels like an opera. Because it's just so, I mean, it is big. The stakes could not be higher from the jump, like from the very beginning. And then you kind of go through this weird sort of like fever dream and like finding doctors and all this stuff and finding things. But a lot of people within the trans community were saying that it was it felt like it was it had fetishized because they were talking. There was actually a song about vaginoplasty, that happens in the movie. And they're like, it's not like that. It's not like that. And I'm like, yes, but I think one of the people have been making a lot of noise. But then there's some people who have been making the noise saying, you know what? Clearly, there's a lot of interest out there in our stories. In trans stories. It's great that we have a trans actor. She played. Yes, she was great. She was nominated. Yeah. She plays the titular role. The transformation you will not believe. Like the way she starts the movie and the way you're like, what? And there are some odd plot things, but you have to just suspend your disbelief. Right. But what they were saying is like, it's really great that they're providing trans artists this opportunity, and clearly there's a want for these stories. But why don't you give trans artists the resources, the money, the time, the support, so that they could tell their own stories, that kind of vibe. So there's kind of been an interesting discussion.
Maybe it'll spark that
going on that, but there are some people who were the initial people who were some complaints were like, I've seen clips of this and it's awful, blah blah blah, and that's why I'm like.
People are quick.
I know, and it's like, and especially like artistic folks who understands that like not everybody's story is your story,
you can't
even if it is.
That.
But even if it is like a trans story, and I don't know, like I don't want to get. I don't know.
I agree.
But then at the same time, also this week in my week of recovery and just kind of like being a schlump on a couch, we watched The Celluloid Closet. Have you seen?
No.
Oh my gosh! It's a documentary from the 90s, and it's about the representation of queer folks.
Maybe I have. It sounds familiar.
It's a while ago. It was like 1996 or something like that. It's been 30 years since it came out. It was a book as well, and it's and it kind of goes through and shows you the evolution of queer characters
on screen,
and how like we were the victims or we were the butt of the joke or
very stereotypically
that sort of thing. And
played,
I'm sitting here watching it going, interesting, because I remember when like this movie came out, like you're right. So this is probably the exact same thing that our trans siblings are going like, this is not how I want it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's so much gray. But if you haven't seen The Celluloid Closet, I highly recommend it. Yeah. It's like a good little glimpse of history, because you have like Harvey Fierstein in there, especially when they're talking about the trope of the sissy that happened like a lot. He's like, I like the sissy. I am a sissy. I'm like, I hear you. Like it's really fascinating just to kind of see the evolution of characters, who went from being the victim, then all of a sudden they became like the killers, or they had to die at the end of every movie, that vibe.
Everything's an evolution. I have a question. Was this character ever thinking of transitioning other than to hide from their... Is it simply because they want to change their identity from
they want to live their truth? No, it's not about hiding it from anybody. It's like... So
they've been wanting to... They felt they wanted to be a woman.
Yes,
they weren't just doing it to hide.
It is not just to hide. No, it is something like, I have been struggling with this my whole life.
So,
I started the transition a year and a half ago.
I did not. Okay,
they started.
All right, so
but it's like, I don't know. It's
why?
It really is kind of a remarkable movie. I understand Selena Gomez now a little better.
I know you do. We
talked about it last week. People love her, and for me, I'm like, she's got shark eyes. She doesn't move her face. It's very weird, except in this movie, she moved her face. And she
figured
really,
out how
great.
to do it.
She did. And Zoe Saldana won for it. Talk about having a moment. She's really good in this.
I bet.
And she sings and raps in Spanish. Oh. The entire movie's in Spanish.
And Selena does a dance that she was talking about on Jimmy Kimmel last week.
Yes.
That's supposed, she was intimidated by it, but she said she just let it happen, and
she did. It's really great.
I hear it's really great.
It's really, really good. Other big winners of the night from the Golden Globes. I was so happy that Demi Moore won.
Yes, and her speech was lauded. People really enjoyed it.
Her speech was great. She won for The Substance. Ellen, do you think you're ever going to watch that movie?
You know what? Kathy's a SAG AFTRA, and so we get them all. She watches them all. So if it's not, they came out last week. If it was nominated for anything, we will get it, and I'll probably watch it.
Okay, just buckle up. Buckle up.
I know. I saw this scene where their hands on her face.
It's a very crazy ride. It is a very, very crazy ride. It is an incredible look at
aging,
but also like the way that toxic masculinity. There's toxic masculinity throughout it. With I can't remember his name right now. It's escaping my head. But there's also the way that toxic masculinity can lead to toxic femininity, in terms of the unrealistic body expectations that men place on women and that women internalize. And that's kind of what this movie is about. And it is, I will never forget that film.
I know. I remember after you saw it, we talked about it.
But Demi Moore, I thought she's congratulations on her. Her speech was so wonderful. Hey, let's just be superficial. Until she looked like $1 million.
Great.
That dress.
62.
That dress was incredible.
It was something.
But her coming up to being like, I've been doing this for 45 years, and I've been told by many people in this room that I'm a popcorn actor. Like, I can bring in the box office, but I won't do anything of substance.
Yeah.
Although, no pun intended with that.
Yeah, right.
But she's like, and now it feels like I'm actually invited to the party after 45 years. The thing that people may not know about Demi Moore, there was a chunk where she was the highest paid actor.
Yes, I do remember that.
Period.
None, when she was in the height of her,
in the height of her career, she made bank because she was reliable, and there's something about her. I love G.I. Jane. Have you seen G.I. Jane?
Never saw it.
Ellen Miller. You need to watch G.I. Jane. It's so good, and Viggo Mortensen's in it. Yeah, it's about her becoming the first woman SEAL.
I remember the premise. Yeah,
that is your homework for tonight.
Okay. After football.
Jodie
Foster was great too. She won an award for the.
Which I don't understand why.
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
I thought she was good. Well, we liked it.
Oh, great. That must be a lesbian.
Yeah, must be a lesbian thing.
I didn't enjoy it.
We were into it.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah. Clearly, again, I'm not here to yuck your yum. It just wasn't. It wasn't my cup of tea.
She was great in it. I thought I loved it.
I can't remember who was nominated up with her.
The woman that plays she's kind of I think she's a bisexual character in it. The other police officer was nominated for a supporting role, but she did not win. I don't remember.
Well, because they do the actress in the miniseries. I can't remember anyway, the Night Detective, the True Detective Night Country. Yeah, I don't know. We were not.
Callie Reese is the one that was up for supporting actress in a television series for True Detective.
Well, that's supporting. I want to know who she was up against in this category. Yeah. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. Shame on me. But I was so very happy that Jean Smart won for Hacks.
Yes,
she's somebody who just gives all the prizes.
She is. I love it. I love
still
her.
Do not understand how The Bear is a comedy.
Nobody does. Why don't they fix that? Why don't they change that?
They know. Well,
people are constantly asking why. How
it doesn't make
possible?
Any sense. It doesn't make sense. But
Jodie, I got Jodie. She was best performance by an actress in a limited series, up against Cate Blanchett for Disclaimer.
Oh yeah, all
Kristen,
the movie stars.
Milioti for The Penguin. Sofia Vergara for Griselda. Naomi Watts for Feud. Capote versus the Swans, and Kate Winslet for The Regime.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was a pretty stacked.
Yeah, it was very stacked.
Yeah, I loved the Capote one.
I wanted
Naomi
to.
Watts.
Haven't seen it. Still time.
Girl.
Still time.
Girl.
Still time.
Girl, have you seen Baby Reindeer?
No.
Girl!
It sounds so weird. But I might check it out.
What do you mean it sounds so weird?
I saw the stalking and this.
It's much more than that. It's really good.
I hear it's great.
It's really good. And I'm so glad that she won, that they both won.
Yeah.
There we are. So, yeah. Any other surprises for you or happiness that you were excited about?
I liked her jokes. I like when when Nikki Glaser said Timothy Chalamet. She goes, I like that I like your eyelashes move. She made a joke about his mustache, referring it to his eyelashes over his lips.
Right.
It was kind of funny. I don't know. Just because he did his facial hair is a little odd.
A little thin.
I enjoyed it. I was kind of going back and forth between that and a football game.
Girl, commit.
I recorded too, so
okay.
I could. Yeah, no, I watched. It was perfect because the commercial breaks, I'd catch the score and come back. I didn't really miss much, but I do enjoy the award shows, and I love when women host them. Thankfully, there's more than there used to be when it was strictly men hosting them. Mm-hmm. I think she's coming. Nikki Glazer's doing like 4 nights here in Chicago coming up in a couple. I don't know how long in the next couple of months. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. She's people wonder where people come from. She's in her 40s, but all these people have been at it for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
Quick plug, Kathy Richardson, who was on with us last week, is playing at City Winery this Friday night.
On Friday, yeah.
There might be guest performances by someone you may know from out Chicago. So
I will be joining her to tell some jokks in between. You've ruined it. I will be there. I will be there. Oh, I know. Spoilers.
But it will be a great show. I think tickets are still available, so check it out this Friday at City Winery.
Yeah, go and check it out.
Anything going on special?
My anniversary is next week. Actually, it's next Sunday.
You're in Jerry's?
Yeah. 21.
21.
21
Do you know
years.
what I realized Friday night?
What?
This year is Kathy's and my 30th.
Wow.
Just like Porchlight Theater and Bobface
Just like
Theater.
my graduation.
Your graduation.
There we are.
A lot of good things happened in 1995.
A lot of things happened. Well, I graduated in 94, but there we are. Anyway, anywhoozles. So friends, we got 8 days left.
Oh,
live it up.
Gird your loins.
Gird your loins.
Here we go.
Be strong. I want to thank Michael Cheyenne. The play of Oz is going to be at the Chicago Shakespeare. Don't miss that one. I want to thank you, Devin, so much for all that you do. Paul, you didn't do anything today except, just kind of hang out. You're a little eye candy. There he is. Oh, we answered phones. Thank you, Paul. Ellen Miller, enjoy your football today and all that good
Thank you, my
stuff.
friend.
And I'm Scott Duff, and until next week, stay proud.